I will do everything in my power to make your life a living hell. So I need some advice, and I honestly have no idea how to even start dealing with this. This is in Toronto, Ontario. Let me set it up. I own an apartment in downtown Toronto. It's in a condo building, and our building has had a really bad history with Airbnb. Short-term renters coming and going, parties, noise, strangers in the elevators at all hours, people who don't live there treating the place like a hotel. It got bad enough that the building actually held a vote and we banned it. No short-term rentals of any kind. It's written into the building's rules now. Everybody who lives there agreed to it. Here's my situation. Right now I'm working on the other side of the continent. Across the whole country. I left for this job and I won't physically be back in Toronto until January. So my apartment was just going to sit empty for about 5 months. I didn't want it sitting empty for 5 months. So back in late August, I decided to rent it out. And I want to be clear about this part because it matters. I rented it as a long-term rental from late August all the way through to January. That's almost half a year. That is not a short-term rental. Plenty of people in my building do exactly this, rent their unit out for a few months while they're away, and it's completely fine and allowed. That's the whole point. Long-term is fine. Short-term is banned, so I list the place. And almost right away I get a response from a woman. I'll call her Jane. Jane tells me she's a student about to start grad school. Now, looking back, I have no idea if that was ever true. But at the time it sounded perfect, a quiet grad student who needs a place for a few months while she studies. Exactly the kind of tenant you want. We talked, we agreed on the rental, and she signed a document. And I really want you to remember this document because it becomes important later. In that document, she agreed to follow all of the building's rules. And one of those rules, spelled out in plain writing, was the notice about no short-term rentals through services like Airbnb. She signed it, she agreed to it in writing. So I flew off to the other side of the country feeling pretty good about the whole thing. My apartment wasn't sitting empty, I had a nice quiet tenant, everything was handled, and then a couple of days ago I got an email from our property manager, and everything I thought I had handled fell apart. Here's what the email said. On Monday, the building staff were going around testing the smoke detectors in every unit. Routine thing. And when they got to my unit, my property manager noticed something strange. There were 3 people inside my apartment, 3 people I had never heard of, and the whole place reeked of smoke. And when he tried to come in to test the detector, these 3 strangers actually tried to stop him. They didn't want to let him in, because as it turned out, they had no idea who he was. Why would they? They weren't my tenants. They told him to his face that they were Airbnb guests. They were only renting my apartment for the week. So let me list out the way he listed out for me everything that was suddenly wrong. 1. I was now in violation of the building's number 1 rule, the short-term rental ban, the exact rule Jane had signed a document agreeing to follow. 2. There were more people staying in my unit than the building even permits. Strangers, multiple of them. 3. Guests had been parking overnight in the building's visitor spots, which isn't allowed, and every single one of them had written down my unit number as the place they were visiting, so all of it traced straight back to me. After I read that email, I got him on the phone and he confirmed all of it. And then I did the thing that made my stomach drop. I went online and I searched Airbnb and I found my own apartment, my home, listed for rent, with recent photos of my actual rooms, my actual furniture, taken from inside while I was 3,000 miles away. So I tried to reach Jane. I emailed her. No response. I called her, straight to voicemail, over and over. I messaged her on Facebook. She read it and then she blocked me. So then I tried Airbnb directly, and I cannot tell you how many times I have now been on the phone or on chat with Airbnb, and every single time they tell me the same thing. They can't do anything about it. They won't take the listing down. They basically refuse to get involved at all. It's my apartment, listed without my permission, being rented to strangers, and the company hosting the listing just shrugs. And honestly, putting aside every single rule violation and every fine, the thing that bothers me the most is much simpler than all of that. There are random strangers in my home right now, sleeping in my space, smoking in my rooms, and I am on the other side of the country and I have no way to stop any of them from walking in the front door. I did talk to a lawyer about evicting her, but he told me eviction could take 2 months or more. And that doesn't help me because in about 2 months her lease is basically up anyway, by the time I could legally evict her. She'd already be gone and the damage would already be done. I don't want to wait 2 months. I want to stop strangers from walking into my apartment now. So, that's my question. Is there anything I can legally do to block these random Airbnb people from getting into my unit while this plays out? Because right now I feel completely powerless, and it's my own home. Update. Okay, a couple of days after I posted that, I finally started actually doing something instead of just panicking. So let me update you, because a lot happened fast. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who gave me advice, because I clearly needed it. Looking back, I was really naive about this whole renting thing. The last time I rented my place out, the tenant just left on time like a normal person, and I genuinely never stopped to think about what I'd do if someone didn't. I didn't know any of my rights. Now I'm learning them the hard way. So here's what I did. I started the eviction process. I found a local lawyer who's going to handle all the paperwork for me and represent me, since I can't physically be there. That's moving now. And then some good news which I really needed. I finally explained the whole situation to my condo board. I laid it all out. That this was happening completely without my knowledge, that I'd rented to one person under a proper long-term lease, and that she'd gone behind my back and turned it into an Airbnb. And honestly, they were great about it. As soon as they understood I was the victim here and not the one running this scheme, they agreed to waive all the penalties they'd been threatening me with. That was a huge weight off. I did find out from them, though, that this had gotten worse than I realized. There were noise complaints tied to my apartment on Friday night. My empty apartment. That's what had gotten the condo board so worked up in the first place. But here's the part that actually started to turn things. Remember I mentioned the building has a concierge service. We have someone at the front desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The building made a decision because of all this. The front desk will no longer let anyone leave keys for anyone else. No more handing keys to strangers. That sounds small, but it's the thing that started cutting off Jane's whole operation. Because get this, on Sunday 2 people walked into the building and went up to the front desk and asked for the keys to my unit. And the concierge, who now knew exactly what was going on, asked them point blank, "Are you Airbnb guests?" And they said yes, so he told them right there to leave, that they weren't welcome and they weren't getting in. For the first time, somebody had actually stopped it. And then finally Jane surfaced. After ignoring every call, every email, every message, she suddenly got in touch with me. But not to apologize. Oh no. She got in touch to accuse me. She accused me of harassing her renters. She accused me of making her life difficult. She told me she was going to take me to the landlord and tenant board to file a formal complaint because, in her words, banning Airbnb isn't allowed. So I pointed out the thing that all of you had pointed out to me, that she needs my permission before she can rent my apartment out to other people, and she very obviously never had it. And that's when she really showed me who she was. She went off on this rant about how she does this for lots of places, how she's never once had a problem, and how stupid I was for, quote, making her my enemy. That line stuck with me. Lots of places. She slipped and told me this wasn't a one-time thing. This is what she does. At this point, I have a mountain of proof of everything she's doing. But honestly, my biggest fear now isn't the legal fight. It's my actual apartment. What is it even like in there right now? So I've asked a friend to book my place for a single night on Airbnb, because it's apparently available again for tomorrow. And just go in and take a look at the state of it. I need to know what these people are doing to my home. I'll let you know what he finds. Update 2. So, about a week and a half went by and I have an update, and it got worse before it got anywhere near better. First, thank you again for the advice. The most useful thing somebody told me this round was that I'm allowed to send someone in my place, a proxy, to do an inspection of my own unit. I didn't know that. and I'm never renting this apartment out again as long as I live, but at least now I know my rights. So here's what happened with the inspection. My property manager hadn't gotten back to me in time about doing an official walkthrough, and I was too anxious to keep waiting. So I went ahead with the plan. My friend booked my apartment for one night through Airbnb, just to get inside and see it. And this is where it got interesting. When my friend showed up, the person who met him wasn't Jane. It was a man in the parking lot who introduced himself as Jane's co-worker. He said he works for a company. I'll just call it Company X. And this guy handed my friend the keys to my apartment, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I have no idea who this man is. I'd never heard of him. And there he was, a complete stranger, holding the keys to my home and handing them out to people in a parking lot. That's when it really sank in for me that this wasn't just one scammer. This was an operation, a company. Now here's the part that's almost funny. My friend takes the keys, walks into the building, and the concierge stops him, asks him which unit he's going to. And my friend, of course, says my unit number. And the concierge won't let him up, because the front desk is now blocking exactly this. I had completely forgotten to warn my property manager that I was sending a friend in, so my own guy got turned away by my own building's security, which honestly meant the system was working. It worked out fine for my friend, by the way. Airbnb gave him a full refund for the night, and on top of that, they put him and his girlfriend up in a nice hotel a few blocks away for free, which is a little ironic, given that Airbnb wouldn't lift a finger to help me, the actual owner. But my property manager did finally come through. He did a video walkthrough of my apartment with me on speakerphone so I could see my own home for the first time in weeks. And it was bad, really bad. The place reeked of cigarette smoke. Our building is officially smoke-free, that's another rule, and there was a beer can sitting on a table being used as an ashtray. There are stains and burns on my couch that look like they're from cigarettes. My home that I left clean and cared for looked like a cheap motel room after a rough weekend. And through all of this, Airbnb still has not done a single thing. Her listing for my apartment was still up. I checked. Meanwhile, Jane would not stop emailing me. Constant angry messages about how I'm wrecking her finances, about how I'm making her look bad as an Airbnb host, as if I'm the one who did something wrong here. So I just told her flatly what I'd seen on the walkthrough, that my apartment stinks of smoke in a smoke-free building, and her response told me everything. She claimed she had never signed any agreement about the condo rules. Never. So I took the document she signed back in August, the one with her signature, including the page that lists the condo rule. And I sent her a picture of it, her own signature, on the rules she swore she'd never seen. Then I tried to just end it. I made her an offer. I told her she could walk away from the lease early, and she wouldn't have to pay me any more rent for the rest of the term. She'd skip November and December entirely. All she had to do was leave and have the apartment professionally cleaned on her way out. A clean exit for both of us. She came back and demanded $5,000 from me to leave early, $5,000, to get out of my own apartment that she was illegally subletting. When I refused, she told me, and I'm quoting her, "I will do everything in my power to make your life a living hell for messing with me." So that's where things stand. My lawyer has now filed the formal complaint with the landlord and tenant board, and he thinks the whole thing should be resolved by the end of December. This has been an absolute battle, and it has taught me a lesson I will never forget. Anyway, thanks for the advice. I'll update when it's over. Final update. So, about 3 weeks later, it's over. Officially. And I want to tell you how it ended. Even though I'll be honest with you up front, it's not the ending I wanted. As of today, Jane has finally vacated my apartment, and building management has changed the locks. So it's done. She's out. Strangers can't get in anymore. On paper, I won. Here's how it actually ended, though. We came to a signed agreement. She agreed to be out within 7 days if I refunded her the last 2 months of rent. About $4,200, and I did it. I paid her. I paid the woman who illegally turned my home into a hotel, who trashed it, who threatened me, who demanded $5,000. I paid her around $4,200 to leave. I know how that sounds. But between that payment and all my legal fees on top of it, I'm basically in the hole on this whole thing. When I do the math, I would have been genuinely better off if I'd never rented my apartment to anyone at all. I'd have come out ahead just leaving it empty for 5 months. I did finally learn the truth about Jane too. I got connected with someone who was actually working on a story about her, and they confirmed what I'd started to suspect. Jane works for a company that rents out other people's places on Airbnb. That's the business. That's company X. She was never a grad student. She isn't a student at all. The quiet grad student who needed a place to study while she started school. That whole person never existed. It was a cover to get the keys. The person doing the story, by the way, told me they weren't going to keep pursuing it because of time, so even that fizzled out. And here's the part that really gets me. To this day, right now, as I'm writing this, Airbnb still has my apartment listed on their site. Still up. After everything, the only silver lining is that she doesn't have keys anymore, so whoever books it is just going to show up to a locked door and a changed lock. But the listing is still there. Airbnb never did one single thing through this entire ordeal. My apartment, meanwhile, is a disaster. My property manager confirmed people were definitely smoking in there. There are cigarette burns on my couch. My dishwasher is broken. And the whole place needs a deep, desperate cleaning before it's livable again. It's safe, more or less, but it's wrecked. So that's it. That's the ending. And I'll be honest with you, because I don't really know who else to be honest with about this. I don't feel like I won. I know that technically I did. She's gone, the locks are changed, the nightmare is over, but I'm out thousands of dollars. My home is trashed. The company that hosted the whole thing got away clean and is still advertising my apartment. And the woman who did this is just going to move on to the next place and the next owner and do it all over again. Because for her it worked. It always works. That's the business. I keep waiting to feel relief or some kind of satisfaction that the good guy won. And it's just not there. Mostly I just feel tired and angry and a few $1,000s poorer. But I did learn something, and it's a lesson I'm never going to forget. I am never renting my apartment out again. Not once, not ever. It's not worth it. At least now I can fly home at Christmas, walk into my own apartment with my own key, and start cleaning up the mess. And honestly, right now, that's enough. Thanks everyone for all of it.